Hello from Southern Arizona. Oh, I just got hair stuck in my glasses. Dang it. Oh, that hurt. Hello from Southern Arizona. This is Laura from TheYarnCloset. It's February. We have spring break in a couple of weeks. I have to leave in a little bit to walk over to my aunt's to get my daughter. So I thought, I've had a couple more people who've responded and sent me some messages and questions and stuff. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's also a blind mom. I am legally blind. People are like, we don't understand, and you've sent us these little, and you've said these little, and you've shown us some stuff. We don't understand. So this is a knitting podcast. So I'll talk some knitting and crochet, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the backstory of it and maybe why I don't focus more on it. I'm 52. I was 2 months premature. And back in those days, they didn't realize that the pure oxygen in the incubators hurt your eyes. It damaged your retinas. It caused something called retinopathy of prematurity. So your retinas become damaged from that. Your eyes aren't necessarily fully developed at that point anyway, just like your lungs. My lungs were also collapsed and I had hyaline membrane disease. So the membranes were sticky and keeping my lungs from inflating. Lots of issues, lots of health issues. I had the retinopathy of prematurity. I have nystagmus, which means my eyeballs do this. They agitate. I had to have eye surgeries because my muscles were so underdeveloped that my eyeballs rolled independently of each other. When your eyeballs don't look at the same picture, your brain will shut down the weaker eye deal. So my brain has always just taken the picture of this. Now that's not to say that my left eye doesn't react to light and dark and movement and stuff. It does. But that's more like being constantly startled throughout your day because you've had this light and dark thing that eye caught. So it throws off your balance. I also don't have depth perception like a normal person. I did this when I was a child because it's easier for me to do this. I don't necessarily see less, but I get less of that reactivity business. And so I feel more balanced. I feel stronger when I do this. But because my mom trained me this way, I've never truly been able to retrain myself to do this. I don't want to wear eye patches. It's hard enough for my kids to have the blind mom. So whatevs. Maybe when I'm an old lady, I'll wear the eye patch when I'm more worried about broken hips and knees and replacements and stuff. I also have ocular albinism, which did not get diagnosed when I was young. It was much older. I started to notice some things, and in talking to one eye doctor, not optometrist, eye doctor, who was asking me things about my parents, he said, I think your dad has ocular albinism because he's too young to be going through what he's going through, and you're showing signs of certain things. Let's go get you tested for this. I had to go to a specialist. I ended up at the University of Minnesota, had lots and lots of testing done. They're the ones that said, you are legally blind for a number of reasons. The basic legally blind business is everybody is shooting for 20/20. If you wear your glasses, they're fixing your vision to 20/20. That means you see clearly at 20 feet, 200 feet, something. I don't know. Look it up. It's never been my thing. I don't give a shit. They found out that so you can be legally blind if instead of 20/20, even in your correction, the best they can get you to is 2200. So that means your vision is 100 times worse than an average person. Okay, that can get you to legally blind. This was 2,400 when I was 9 years old. I recently had someone estimate, an eye person online estimate that it's probably 2,800 or worse based on some stuff. An eye test that I had done in the doctor's office recently, some other things, some other online testing. Okay, so 2,800 maybe. And I only see a very small area in this eye. Both eyes combined, they test them independently. Even though my brain only recognizes, for my useful daily vision, it only recognizes what's happening in this eye. They tested both my eyes independently and added up the numbers. So if my brain was recognizing from both eyes, at the time they deemed me legally blind, I had less than 20 degrees of vision. It was about 15. Right now, the combined is about 10. In my good eye, the one that I get to use to work, to live, it's 5 to 7. They figure this one is 2 to 3. But you combine the whole thing together, they figure that, if it was working cohesively, it'd be maybe 10. So your normal range of vision is about 160 degrees. That's an average person. Some people have a little bit more, some people have a little less. It's about 160. 180 is half of a circle, okay? So if I only have 10% of that, and actually I have less than 10% because my brain's only registering this one, ocular albinism is also the pathways from your eyeballs to your brain aren't working properly. And ocular albinism is also that your retina has no pigment or very little. So the picture is blurred out. So if you're thinking that your life is pictures, like snapshots, and in the old days we used to get them made into actual pictures, if you overexpose a picture, it's just blurred out. It's just too much white. Okay. My balance is affected by my eyesight. I can get very nauseous. I get headaches. I mean, I've had migraines since early childhood. Life's just can be made, like my daily thing can be made with this underlying ish factor, just because there's too much light or there's too much visual busyness or confusion. So those are most of my things. Also, ocular albinism, the kind that I have, impacts my autoimmune thing. So that with all my preemie stuff, I've never been like, oh, she's a marathon runner. We can see that. Because I'm running a marathon every damn day to get my energy to be peak. I'm one of those people that, I really struggle, but I learned at an early age to mask incredibly well. Mask my blindness, because my mom used to patch my eyes, and half the time she'd send me to school like this, thinking it would straighten this eye out. If the 2 eye surgeries didn't straighten it out, you doing this, so I can't see the board, or the kid I'm going to run into, or the table that's going to bruise me, that's not helping. Or the rock I'm going to fall over, or whatever. So I learned to mask. Because of that, I learned to mask very well my illnesses, my migraines. I mean, I've worked some shit jobs, and I've worked more than one job at a time, and I've worked some very hard jobs. To help get to a point to prepare for kind of what I knew, because I was always warned was coming. It's really hard. Somebody said to me a few days ago at school when I was picking up my daughter, "You've got such a good attitude for a disabled person." Well, hot damn. I wanted to turn and look at him and say, you have such a good attitude for a man. What? Why would you say that to someone? First of all the disabled people you see in public, are they crabby? Are they crying? Are they whining? I've never seen a person pushing themselves along in a wheelchair throwing profanities out there at people. I had a friend whose arm was amputated and caused continued years of problems even after, so the arm is gone, but guess what? The pain's not gone. It sometimes can be worse. But the infection and the this and the that and the whatever, so often medically, we're told that we're going to fix this thing, but so often they don't tell us the things that it can also cause. What is the fix going to cause? I know what you're wanting to fix and what it's going to fix and what it's, going to relieve, but what is that fix going to also potentially cause? What are the medications I'm going to have to take after this fix also going to potentially cause with the other medications maybe I'm already on? I'm not on any medications right now. So it's hard for me to talk about it. It's hard for me. I mean, I got criticized by family, friends, not friends. I get criticized by family a lot over the years about using my cane, whatever. I'm not trying to make the next guy uncomfortable. I'm trying to not fall down. I even have shortened my canes because most people's canes are at least as tall as they are. Because if you're walking quickly down a sidewalk, you need that space to know what the next couple steps are going to be. If you're using a short cane, so I've got short canes. I will use short canes to walk with, and I will just walk slower. And I will just be more thinking while I'm doing what I'm doing to register, okay, I know that there's sidewalk here. I know I'm looking for this. I know I'm looking for that. And based on the canes, I find it in different ways. But I do that because I can make the cane more disappear, a little bit more. We don't always have to pay attention to the fact that it's here. If I have something 6 feet tall, you're not going to miss it. And so I can also fold them up, stick them in a bag, whatever. It's really hard. And it's hard to be so limited in life because that's people's first perception of me now. I don't want that ever to be people's first perception. Why is that people's first perception? Why when you look at the guy in the wheelchair, you're thinking, oh, you're disabled. No, he's a guy. Sure, he's got a disability, but he's a guy. He's a husband, he's a brother, he's a son, he's a father. What does it say to my child that I'm fully responsible for? That I feed, I clothe, I get to the doctors, I help with homework. People honestly believe that somehow I come home and my husband does all the housework, the feeding of the people, that he's putting the lipstick on me, that he's doing my hair, that he somehow has any idea of what menopause is or how it impacts my health. He's not doing that. And when he does try to walk around a bit with me, he's not paying attention and lets me walk right into branches. Even if somebody's right next to me, I can't rely on them. They're not taking over for me. He's not brushing my teeth to make sure that that's toothpaste and not triple antibiotic, which yes, that has happened, people. I have brushed my teeth with hydrogen cortisone or triple antibiotic or whatever one of those creams was that was in the drawer. Well, obviously I didn't swallow and I didn't die from it. So I was diagnosed legally blind at 36, just after I had my son in that first year after I had my son, who's now 16. I was, based on what one of the doctors said, he's like, you have probably been legally blind for at least 3 years, maybe 4. I was driving. I was driving state to state. I was driving from Minnesota to Arizona. I was driving interstate. I was driving from Tucson to Nogales. I was living back in Minnesota and driving to Wisconsin. I mean, I was driving, people. I was a realtor. I was driving clients. I was driving. Even after I was deemed legally blind and I had an infant, because of my husband's driving back and forth to his job and whatever, it was like, well, you either push the stroller and do multiple trips a week to get groceries, or, you know, we live in a town of 4,000. You just drive the 4 blocks Tuesday at 10 a.m. when there's no traffic. And I was doing it. Because nobody shows up on your doorstep to take your driver's license away. When I moved back to Arizona, I got a state ID. When we changed our address, they mailed me a driver's license. I have a driver's license. Because I had had a driver's license in this state before the state ID, and even though I just renewed the state ID, they just sent me the driver's license. I've tried to go in and give it back and get the one that I want, and they won't take it. When I was deemed legally blind, I brought the letter into the DMV and I said, I don't want my driver's license anymore. I just want an ID. And they're like, we don't care. It's an ID. It's fine. Nobody cares. I'm like, but I don't want it. Well, you can't have. I mean, it took 2 visits and 2 supervisors before they would take my driver's license and give me a state ID. And it's hard because I'm constantly thinking of that I just want to have a big life and I want to work a job and I want to do stuff. And when I go in and try to even volunteer somewhere, they think I'm a joke. But somehow if I'd shown up in a wheelchair, you'd take me a little bit more seriously. Because if somebody is in a wheelchair and they work all day long, guess what, people? They can get out of that wheelchair, even if it's just maneuvering to get onto the toilet, unless they have also bladder and bowel bags and issues and stuff. They're able to get out of that chair enough to go to the bathroom by themselves because they're not bringing an aide with them to help them have potty breaks. Like, disabled people can still be disabled. Like, I have sight, but I am blind because we have a legal standard for this thing that states that I am somehow shouldn't be driving. So if I got in the car and drove the car and got in an accident, I would have no coverage by my car insurance, or whoever's car insurance was on there. I would have no coverage. It would all be my personal liability. I could be sued. There's just, this is such a hard conversation because people just want this happy dancy thing. And you know what? Some days I'm better than other days. And And sometimes I'm not, because sometimes the weather's so bad or whatever, or I've got the headaches, or, you know, I don't know. But normal people have good days and bad days too. Everybody does. And what's normal anymore when supposedly 50% of the kids are severely autistic or ADHD, severely ADHD, to the point that they know that's going to impact their working lives? I mean, what on earth is the world going to look like in 15 years, 20 years? Like, how many adults are going to be viably employed when 85% of the autistic people who have bachelor's degrees or higher aren't employed? So you can get your bachelor's degree or your master's degree, but then you still struggle with employment. And I can talk about this because my ex-husband was diagnosed as autistic and he didn't want to accept it. He's got a master's degree and he's struggled with employment. And he was a teacher. And he was a good teacher for what he taught. But he still struggled with employment. And he still struggled with the home life balance, hence divorce. And then the big thing is, but what do you see? What do you see? Well, fucking A, I don't know. Like, literally 80% of the time, if it's not something right in front of my face, I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't know what that brown over there is. I don't know. I know it's not a pig because we don't have them anymore. I don't think it's a bush, but it could be a bush. It could be a piece of wood that a javelina moved. I don't know. The wind could be so bad that it's some brown something, barrel. I don't know. So I was talking to this friend and she's like, do this. Okay, so people assume, since I've got central vision in my right eye, but everything else has gone blurred out, people assume that somehow all of this is black and that this part that I can see, and by the way, I can feel this, that this is really clear. Well, it's not, it's blurry. But then what's over here isn't like black. It's also gradations of looking through sludge. So like, that's why this is not solidly blacked out. And because I have lost my vision from the sides in, a lot of what's happened is this. Things just stopped being there. All of a sudden, the picture's now this, and I'm like, wait, is there a person over there? Is there not a person over there? What is this? Is this a person? Wait, were there 3 people over there? How many people were on each side? Because they just kind of disappear. And then we've gotten to this. So now I'm pretty much like this with all of this space around what I actually see clearly. I don't see, if I'm sitting across the table from you and you're sitting shoulder to shoulder to somebody else, I have to turn my head to look from one person to the other talking. And I see a portion of your face clearly, semi-clearly. What I consider clear, which I've been told repeatedly to other people is not clear, is blurry. So my phone had a problem with its camera for a couple of years. I had no realization that the pictures weren't clear. I can take pictures. I have stuff on my phone that helps me tell. When I take the picture, it will tell me that there's a face, one face in frame. 2 faces in frame. Face on left of frame. Face on bottom of frame. Portion of face in frame. That's why I have earbuds in most of the time. I'm hooked up to my phone so it can read for me. I can look through my phone and have it talk to me and get a better idea of some of the things I'm seeing. So things just, I went from having the full picture to just over time, it getting smaller and smaller and smaller, to having just this little bit in the middle. I mean, do you even know, and could you even have told from the beginning what this thing in the middle is? It's a barn. It's a barn with the track. There's a couple people on each side. These are some mountains in the background. I know that because I drew it. And I don't like to think about it because I don't want to think about the fact that if my daughter doesn't have a child until she's 43 years old, which is how old I was when I had her, that by the time I am 86 years old, I may have no vision. I may get natural old age macular and may take out that central portion, and I may be able to hold my baby grandchild with supervision, but I may not be able to do much to help my children and their children. Makes me mad knowing that this next 10 years, to get her to graduation when I will be 61, this next 10, 15 years are probably they're my best bet, and yet I just get to sit at home. Because I don't live within walking distance to go badger the school or the library or some place to let me volunteer and be a part of life. And I can't think about that very much. I can't think about what will my autistic son do in his life and how will he function. And will I be able to help him really get going in this thing called life? And will I be able to really, help her make good decisions and value herself? Because I wasn't taught at a young enough age to be okay with admitting weakness. That admitting weakness is not actually somehow admitting fault. It's not somehow being less than. Everybody has weakness. It's okay to say, I have a migraine, I can't do that today. Because if I do that, I'm going to go babysit for your kids next door. I'm going to be in the bathroom vomiting a bunch of times. And maybe that's not what you want for your babysitter. And then by the time I get home, I'm going to be so exhausted that I have nothing left. And then the times that I have been in activities with other blind people, we're just all so damn tired. We don't know what to say. The other blind mom at school, so when my kids were younger, and my daughter was not even in school yet, one of the moms in my son's class was like, oh yeah, so I have this thing and I'm going blind and I'll probably be blind in the next couple of years like you. Like I'll hit that legal threshold. And she did. And she kept driving. I couldn't do that. I did briefly when my son was an infant. After I got the letter in the mail, because nobody talked to me about it. You just get a letter in the mail. And I'm your eye doctor, and these are all the test results, and so this meets the legal criteria for blindness. This now will impact your ability to get a life insurance policy, to get a long-term care policy, to get health insurance, to do all kinds of different things. There are places that won't take you as a volunteer. My church had this big thing going on. They were volunteering at the county jail and stuff. I couldn't. They legally would not accept me as a volunteer. But local facilities would accept the prisoners as volunteers, even though there was a big thing because a couple of them had ended up stealing from one of these city-run facilities, and another one actually committed end of life at one of them. But I can't sit in the library and hand out pamphlets because I'm blind and God forbid something's going to happen to me. And never did anyone ever go as a solitary volunteer. And yeah, I didn't want to put on some other volunteer that, ooh, now you got to be physically responsible for me. And my husband's all like, I'm big, strong man. I'm keeping you safe. No, you're not. Because you're missing that that's not what I actually need. I know that we're coming up to a sidewalk. I'm using my cane. I get that. The curb is one step up. I know that. What I need is, as you're driving to the parking space, hey, I noticed that this ramp up off of the handicap spot that I'm parking in is really narrow. Be careful. Also, because so much stuff at this facility we were at that I fell at the post office in Benson, Arizona, almost all these curbs had this yellow paint. So I was looking for yellow paint. Well, there's this big curb that sticks out by this little ramp for the handicapped people, and there's no yellow paint on it. So I completely missed it. And because the ramp was like, I don't know that it was even wide enough for a wheelchair, because those are supposed to be 36 inches wide, and it sure as hell didn't feel that way to me. That's what I need. I need you to be thinking 3 steps ahead, like I'm thinking 3 steps ahead. Driving in with my son and his friend the other day, his friend was like, wow, so you're telling him stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I am telling him stuff. I'm telling him, okay, we're entering the freeway. Remember that if you're coming in at the same rate as a semi, you want to be behind the semi. Don't speed up to try to get in front of it. It's bigger than you. Okay, we're kind of boxed in. We're going to miss our exit. Don't worry about it. Just get the next one. Okay, when we're coming off the exit, we're going right, and you're going to want to be in the left lane once you get to the right, because our next turn is left. When you can see all these things, and it just flows. When you can't see all these things, you got to be thinking all these things. Okay, we're in a different spot than we normally park because all the handicap was full. I got to go get my daughter. So how am I going to get to the sidewalk? I'm just going to turn around, go straight through the cars next to me, behind me, next to me, get to the sidewalk. Then I got to go straight down the sidewalk. Then I have a sharp left. There's no bumps at that down. Okay, there is a down. There's a ramp up, but then the sidewalk has shifted and they haven't fixed it, and there's like an inch gap. I got to be careful there so I don't fall, because that's a different entrance than the one I normally would take into the space to then have to follow down the hall. And like I'm thinking this whole path. I'm not seeing it, I'm thinking it. Just because my eyes are open doesn't mean the information is helping me. Also, I have Charles Bonnet syndrome. I have lost enough sight in the last year-ish that I have a lot of Charles Bonnet, which means random shit pops up into my vision. I have a lot of color bursts. I know I'm not seeing actual fireworks, but I also have stuff where it's like the other day, we're driving up to take the exit home, and I said to my husband, oh, there was just a dead coyote in our path. And he's like, what? There's no dead coyote. I said, right, but I saw a dead coyote in our path. My brain decided right then and there to just put a dead coyote in the middle of the road. Do you see that shit a lot? I have been talking about it for months, yes. I just happen to know 9 out of 10 times, whether it's you or my son driving, if there really was a dead coyote, you'd be swerving. I know not to jump up and freak out and scare everybody. Oh my God, don't hit that! My mom will shout, oh my God, there's a snake! And there's not. There's just not. It's something on the floor or it's nothing on the floor. It's just there all of a sudden. But what do? You just keep moving forward and you do the best you can and you enjoy your life the best you can. And I gotta go get my daughter. So look with your heart first, not your eyes. And I hope this is what people wanted. It's real. That's all I can say is it's real.